Hello and welcome to Citizens Forum. This is being filmed on Tuesday, June the 30th in the Memorial Arena in Victoria, BC. I'd like to start by thanking our volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes this show happen every week. The first part of Citizens Forum is the Walter and Jack Show, and I'm going to start off with, I'm sick and tired of the corporate media vilification of people of the Muslim faith. It's like there's a war on against Muslim people who live not only here but right around the world. And they even said this many years ago. They said, the people who run the United States, they said we need a war, we want a war of civilizations, or there will be a war of civilizations. And now, right in front of our eyes, they're creating it. And what I'd like to see is some kind of investigation or proof of all the stories they tell us. Like, for example, 9/11, where so much of it began. And going back before 9/11 to the American government, not the American people, the American government funding of fundamentalists to fight what was then the Soviet Union. They began this whole thing prior to 9/11. It was used to get rid of the Soviet Union. Then we had 9/11, and the official story of 9/11, I mean, there should be an investigation of that because there's so many questions that, I mean, the official story, in my opinion, can't possibly be true. But it doesn't matter because the power structure, the corporations, their media, and their politicians never mention it. And then the US funding of ISIS to create the new crazed enemy that we have today. I mean, if you Google US funds ISIS, you'll see lots of stories, research, information about just that. The US funds ISIS. Maybe it's not right, but it throws question into what we're told every day of the year by CTV, CBC, Global, CFAX, the Times Colonist, the Globe and Mail, the official story. So I'm tired of it. It's very dangerous, and it's got to stop. And we've got to start focusing on our real enemy, which happens to be the very corporation that owns the media that is telling us this completely phony story.
Yeah, it goes on like that. It's quite circular in the end because they create the enemy and then they attack it, or they create a facade of an enemy. Remember back in the 80s, it was the war on drugs, but really it was a war on countries in South America, Central and South America, especially countries who were trying to carve out their own economic future, that didn't absolutely toe completely 100% the IMF World Bank line on economic policy. Then you get the war on terror, which is a war on Arabic nations, but really it's a war on Muslims, which really in the end it's just an attack on all our freedoms. No matter how you look at it, when they frame up these enemies like ISIS and all these other entities, they create them, and they create the enemy, they control the enemy, and then they attack the enemy in any way they see fit until one day they get up and they decide, okay, that's no longer, we're not going to be attacking this now, and we're on to some new thing to attack. So we're always in perpetual war, but that robs our freedoms, not only destroys countries and destroys in the environment and people's lives overseas, but it erodes our rights and freedoms here in our own country as we give up all these rights for these bills that the Harper regime are passing for surveillance and all this stuff. So it's kind of a perfect scenario for them to just keep creating these enemies so that we have to fight them, and we give up all our freedoms in the process.
And you know, the American people too have paid a very, very heavy price for all of this. They've been bankrupted doing it. They're as innocent as the rest of us, really. They're just controlled, as we are all controlled, by these lunatics at the top. And you know, the American people have got to also fight back, just as we Canadians do. I mean, to me, we've got to create a more democratic system of government where we, the people of the country, have a voice in what's happening. That's all that democracy is, really. And we don't have that. They've taken it from us. They've stolen it from us. And they now control our governments. They manipulate us with their media, and we're paying a heavy price.
For sure. And we have, for instance, things happening at the local level that are related to these international incidents and international conflicts, especially in the financial world. But if we want to come a little closer to home, of course, we have what's happened in Saanich. Saanich Council is now totally innocent. They didn't do anything wrong, Jack. So the TC printed that last week. I didn't have a chance to bring the article in. And of course, there's this other relationship that Saanich Council has with the CRD and how they were trying to jam that one big sewage treatment plant down our throats.
$1 billion for absolutely no environmental benefit.
That's right,
in
and
my
perhaps
opinion.
another couple of billion to run it. It's a huge boondoggle that the Saanich Council, five people in Saanich Council was going to the CRD. But I think Vic Dermond can't be marked in on that crowd,
No.
but the others were pushing for it.
As was Victoria City
So
Council.
there's some serious dough here, some serious money exchanging hands here, Jack. And if you look at how the structure is, it's just like the same structure we see with the IMF and the World Bank and other these large entities that just basically move in and take over and take our rights and freedoms away. We're not allowed to choose. Now, there's still problems. I think Lisa Helps and Mayor Desjardins and Richard Atwell all have come in to our rescue to a certain degree, but they're still trying to work with this old regime. And they're not out and out saying, we're not going to go this route. And there's still some ambiguities about the whole process and the legitimacy of the process. And like right now, they're all operating under the auspices of the CRD. So you have to fit your brain cells around that. That's the same CRD that tried to ram the one large treatment plant down our throats last year, now seemingly are moving towards maybe going to a multiple plants, which makes a lot more sense, but not officially. So we're in these forces are acting on us, and we're all kind of like pawns in the game. We're trying to fit in, we're trying to participate, but it's very hard for people to really figure out how to do that.
So at the last meeting, which I went to, it was at a hotel near downtown. Before the whole evening started, it was just a couple of hours in an afternoon, I think, Lisa Helps said that thank you all for your participation, and thanks for all the participation you're going to be giving us in the future, but we will make the decision. And she made that very clear, that we, the elected representatives, will make the decision. And I've got a real problem with that, because the we that she's referring to, including herself, includes many people who were very involved in this $1 billion almost disaster for the people of the city, which was stopped because of what was going on in Esquimalt. They just wouldn't let it proceed. So why does Lisa Helps, who's the chairperson of the East Side Committee, say that we are going to be making a decision as if that's going to be a good thing? Their record in decision-making is not good. And the we also includes a lot of the people, or some people in Saanich, who are involved in the entire spyware incident, which goes deeper and deeper the more we look into it. So there's real problems. We just have to keep an eye on it.
We
and
have to
make
really
sure
work
we
at
get
it.
what we want.
Yeah, and Jack, look, Lisa Helps was appointed by the mayor of Oak Bay. I mean, we're talking about fundamental issues about legitimacy. We're looking at a massive expenditure. Oh, by the way, we haven't really fully established exactly at what point the plant would be better than what we already have.
I mean, just the
Or
natural.
we haven't.
That's a good point.
We haven't gotten there yet. So they're burying their own set of inconvenient truths. The first crowd had the wildest ideas in the world that could never fly. But, thank God, I think that's off the table. But even the distributed system has its problems and there's concerns, especially when you haven't done the real science. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen any study that shows would show that this system the distributed system is going to be better than what we already have. Why not have
Just
that?
dumping it into the
Yeah.
ocean. Okay, yeah.
The thing to
And
remember.
that's a serious point.
The thing to remember, I think, is that nobody's been elected to build a sewage treatment plant. Nobody's run on that platform and say, elect me, and by golly, you guys are going to get this. Now, when you get into like $1 billion expenditure, might be much less with the other designs, but this is where it should go to the people. It's a regional decision. It should go to some type of referendum or go on to ballots, and people will run, and we just simply have to find a way to be part of this process. Right now, councillors get appointed to the CRD. They're not accountable to the public. It's a terrible system. And none of that is resolved while they are going to make this momentous decision. And, I don't think it's fair to the public. That's all.
Yeah, so I think everybody should just be keeping an eye on the sewer. This is Walter and I being optimistic. We are hoping for the best, and I think the best is something that will do a very, very good environmental job at a very, very good cost. The best that we can do. I mean, we almost did the worst that we can do. So we've got to make sure that the people running the show are at least interested in that same thing, which is the best environmental system at a very good price. I just want to talk a little bit about Petronas, which I think is actually pronounced Petronas. I'm not sure. This is something that's going to be happening here in Victoria beginning July 13th. There will be a special summer sitting of the provincial legislature, and it's being called to pass one bill. And that one bill is to give Petronas, there was an editorial in the TC several weeks ago. Unfortunately, they haven't really talked about the issue since, but the editorial was good, very important. It says to finalize the deal, which they made a secret deal, which they won't tell us what's in the deal. The bill is to ratify the deal. What's in the deal? We don't know. The bill is to ratify the deal. That's how crazy things are in this province. And this is serious business because Premier Christy Clark made a concession that no BC government has ever granted. She indemnified the company against any increase in taxes or royalties until 2038, the end of the agreement. So in other words, in this secret deal, I guess there is a financial agreement, and that financial agreement she is guaranteeing cannot be changed without us fully indemnifying the company for any changes. So, and it could even be worse than that, because under all the free trade deals, if you give one company or one industry this kind of break, others may be able to get the same thing. And there also may be an environmental catch, which is that in the future, if we want to reduce fracking, because this whole thing is built on fracking, the poisoning of our province, if we want to stop that, we may also have to pay off Petronas. So this is going to be passed at a special sitting of the legislature beginning July 13th at 10 a.m. They'll introduce the bill sometime around 12 or 1 that day. They hope to get it through in as little as a week or 2 weeks. And here we are in Victoria, maybe we can do something about it.
I'm so heartened by how dedicated the Liberals and the NDP are that they'll come back in the summertime, by golly, and get this deal done.
Yeah.
They're thinking we're all going to be at the beach and on our holidays, and I think that's why they called the special session, so that the media is not going to cover it. So, and here you have the Liberal NDP coalition government in full stride, really doing fantastic work for the people of this province. But the thing is that something you mentioned before the show, and something we should all be concerned is the possibility beyond the frozen taxes and the frozen royalties, and beyond, we are all going to have to ignore the environmental aspects, the negative aspects, on into generations and generations. That they're giving them rights to. We could find that fracking's causing earthquakes and still not be able to get out of the deal. But there's also possibly a profit condition too that's going to guarantee a level of profits to these companies, which, if you think about it, we might end up having to pay this company because they're not making as much money as they should have, they thought they were going to make, as the world is shifting away from fossil fuels. So think about this. I mean, is there any other way you can give this province away? Is there something they've missed?
If there is, they'll come up with it next year.
You know what I mean? Is there some way that this is just so ridiculous? The royalties on this are so low. We're not going to make a dime off of this. This looks a lot like the way Alberta ran its energy sector. They were in the red during their boom times, trying to cover their own
And they poisoned
infrastructure.
They poisoned so much of that poor province.
And now they drove it into the ground, and now it's an NDP province for a little while to try to save it. But this is what we're headed for in BC. I mean, this is the crummiest deal in the world. And there's the NDP. I hate to be so tough on them. Not really, actually. It's kind of enjoyable. But the thing is that they're holding themselves up as being the opposition. Well, why not do it? Why not be a real opposition? Not this little lapdog that trails around with the Liberals.
As far as I know, they may support the bill if they like the numbers or something.
They've been supporting fracking all along,
we do.
so
They support fracking.
they're not going to have a change of heart. If they have a change of heart, I'll say wonderful, but I don't know what you can do. You give them lots of ammo here. They could do anything, criticize any of these things based upon the what we know already. So let's, come on, NDP, do something for this province. That's what I'm just begging them to do.
Amalgamation, it concerns me. If amalgamation works and people want it, I'm for it. I don't have any, the way things stand, if I had to vote for amalgamation right now, I'd vote no. But again, if it works and people want it, I'm for it. But it really concerns me the way CFAX has been promoting amalgamation for a couple of years now. And I mean really, really pushing it. They're not reporting the news about amalgamation. I think they're creating the news about amalgamation. And they're using their power, and they have a lot, to kind of push a lot of politicians into feeling they have to do something, because how do you feel if you make a decision and all of a sudden on the radio you're being made to look pretty bad?
Yeah.
So they do have that power, and it concerns me.
I'm wondering, Jack, if you elected the CRD, remember I was always saying we should elect the CRD, and so many people told me it just doesn't work. I can't really see why it wouldn't work. I'd like to see the CRD, any member of the public could run for the CRD and get elected. You don't have to be a councillor. We can't exclude them from the ballot, but anybody could run, be a director in the CRD, and they would carry out the business of the CRD without this overlapping loyalties, let's say, back to the councils. I think that would help a lot in having a regional government that works, and it would allow the municipal governments to retain autonomy and retain the sort of control that they should have over their local governments. I think that's a big deal with keeping these municipalities intact. But we need to do something, because look at what we just had, and what we're going through right now with the sewage treatment.
We elected our Saanich Council, we elected our Victoria Council, and all the other councils. We elect our provincial government, but how could it be any worse than what we get when we directly elect people? It's a nightmare. So what we have to do is somehow change the process. We have to create a more democratic process. We don't elect these people to be our kings and queens, but somehow once they get elected, they become our kings and queens. And that's got to change. They've got to do what we want, and they've got to give us honest information. People have been talking about freedom of information and how impossible it is to get information. Well, how can that be in a democracy? They get reports that we, the citizens, can't see. I mean, these people should all be fired.
Well, they go along with it. The thing is that obviously somebody's going to come along and say, okay, we're going to show you this information, but you shouldn't tell the public. But they don't have to go along with that.
But they do.
I know, and that's the sad part of it, that they seem to have their own private club, and they're more loyal to each other than they are to the members of the public.
That's what it becomes. It becomes their club. So the whole idea of professional politicians has got to change.
Yeah.
There's got to be term limits, and people run through, maybe they're in for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years at the max, and then you're out for a period of years. If you want to come back, let's say 5 years later, okay. Other people come in, things change. And the underlying thing has always got to be democracy, the rule of the people. And we've lost that, and it's the most dangerous thing. I think it's the root cause of all the problems, and we have 1 minute left.
Well, what do you think about this idea of electing the CR? Do you think that would work?
What I think is this. It sounds like an interesting idea. We should have some information about it. Let's get some facts and figures. Let's see how it works in maybe another place.
Yeah.
Let's discuss and have an intelligent discussion, find out some information, and then make a decision.
Yeah, I believe me, I went
Or
through
not.
all the scenarios, including amalgamation and how that could look, what it could look like, and it was always coming back to too much centralized control, too much centralized government, and then you have the sort of the periphery, the small municipalities, all grouped around a large, powerful municipality, which causes other problems. So that's the only solution I can come up with, is elect that CRD, and then when those guys go to get elected, they're saying, you vote for me, I want A, B, C, and D. I mean, you can vote on issues.
We're out of time. Thank you, Walter.
Always a pleasure, Jack.
And thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum. Welcome to segment 2 of Citizens Forum, being filmed on June the 30th in the Memorial Arena, Victoria, BC. Our guest in this segment is Will Smith, and Will, as usual, we're going to be talking about consciousness, so take it away.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. First, I read the Pope's encyclical, and my only comment about that is that it seems to me that he's a very technically oriented person. So he used the term acceleration of change. And I think that that's a very apt statement, because what that means is that the rate of change is changing, which is the second derivative, it's when things start going crazy. So we all know what it feels like to accelerate when we're changing velocity. But the second, when the change in velocity is changing, that's called, in physics, that's called jerk. And I think that's a good term, because if you think of going over a waterfall as being acceleration, so you know what it feels like to go over the waterfall. When you land in the pool underneath the falls, that's when you get jerked around, and that's when you're being tossed around by the water and anything else that's floating around. So that's what he's referring to, is a time when things are changing so rapidly that it's chaotic. And I think that he used that term very specifically. I can't comment on the rest of what he said, but I think that means that he's aware that we're in a very difficult time. So that leads into, I read another book recently called The Magic of Findhorn, and it was published in 1976. The book is by The Magic of Findhorn.
Okay.
Findhorn is an eco-village, sort of the original prototype of all eco-villages in northern Scotland, and I visited there with my partner in 2008.
It was world famous. I remember
she really
hearing
wanted
about
to see it. She'd heard about the vegetables growing to be of enormous size, and so she wanted to see it.
Right.
So I picked up this book, and I read a couple of things in it that were very interesting, but I'd like to read from 2 paragraphs from a chapter called Chapter 10, Lovers from Beyond the Stars. Both modern physics and Don Juan, that Don Juan is from Carlos Castaneda, he was the shaman, demonstrate the ineffableness of reality, the inability to tell about what reality really is. The thought that grows into the form is becoming the new reality as the causal laws of old science are increasingly less operative in our lives. The myth of Findhorn is the myth of creation, of a rebirth of man emerging into a totally new consciousness. The myth is not a few individuals gaining a higher understanding of spiritual and cosmic principles behind life and creation, but a period when the planet as one shall begin to strip away the old personality patterns, the old thought forms, prejudices, and neuroses that distort the collective psyche, and in its place reveal the true divine nature of the planet. As with the individual, this new understanding and realization releases a great wave of energy and vitality into the planetary body, energy which further sweeps away the old and brings to the surface all that has to be cleansed and purified. So this myth of creation is in opposition to our current myth of destruction, where most people think that we're headed for death and destruction. So the withdrawal of energies from the old world, the old cultural institutions, the old social configurations, is accompanied by a fortress mentality in those who would remain behind, those who protect and defend all that is sacred. The ensuing conflict is like a man fighting his shadow. The powerful armies, the rather bizarre entities known as multinationals, the rigid and doctrinaire governments suggest a planetary body lacking divinity, which submits to a cancer-like disease, a body which destroys itself. We are armed to the teeth on a conscious level, ready to resist the rapid changes that carry in the new age. So this is really interesting to me because it was written almost 40 years ago.
Sounds like today.
And it sounds like a very, very cogent analysis of what's going on today. And it's very interesting to me that the Pope is very aware that this is what's happening, that we're going through this time of accelerating change. And how do you deal with that? It's not a time when we've hit this peak and then we're still accelerating. And people don't like change in general. I mean, we don't handle it well. So what do you think about that? What do you think about that as a commentary on?
Well, you and I were talking earlier about where we deal with this, and I said I'm dealing with it more down here, and I think you're just at a kind of, I don't want to, I'll say higher, but maybe different level of consciousness, seeing it from somewhere else. And we were talking about what we can do, and I said all I can do is, you know, I'm down here trying to beat these people off.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of doing the same thing.
Well, I want the world to make sense to me and to everybody else. And so if the world is just headed for some kind of destruction, if the world ends, well, I mean, that doesn't sound like a very good thing. I mean, we might as well all just have a great time then. But I think what we're called to do is to participate, and so each person has to find where they're comfortable. And by participating, I don't necessarily mean, doing fighting. I mean finding out where we fit. So some people want to give information to other people to show what they're seeing, and I certainly fall into that group. But I feel like I've spent my whole life being sort of an activist, trying to see what's going on and to create at least a vision for my own life and the people, my family, the people that I'm responsible for. But I must say that right now I don't know where we're going. I mean, I don't want to create a new system because I don't feel that we're capable of creating new systems that are capable of. I don't think we're capable of creating the systems that are capable of dealing with the magnitude of change that we're going to face. So my thing is that we're called to be observers so we don't miss much. Instead of, I mean, if you've lived around people, there's some people who don't understand the world around them, right? I mean, you've certainly been around people like that, right?
Yeah, I'm one of them.
And it's not comfortable to not to understand the world around.
Yeah. You mentioned in the word participation, and to me that's one of the big losses is that we're not really allowed to participate in the creating of our own world on a day-to-day basis. I mean, important decisions are being made constantly that, you know, that say you're going to have a job or you're not going to have a job, and your family's going to be well off or your family's going to be poor, or you're going to have to drive for an hour to get to work every day, or you're going to be homeless, or you're going to have to, both of you are going to have to work in a family to afford to buy a condo, right? Mm-hmm. So all these important decisions are being made, but they, our rulers, don't let us participate in any of them. We can decide what it is we want to buy, if we've got the money to buy a beautiful mansion, or we're living in a tenement, but we don't have the power to decide that maybe that's not the society we want. We'd rather have a society where everybody has decent housing and it's nice communities, and like Pleasantville.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'd want something closer to that, but those decisions we're not allowed to participate in. And that, I think, is what bothers me more than anything else. And that's where I am kind of trying to get in on the struggle, or whatever it is, if there even is a struggle.
Well, I'm not a big fan of the current political systems. I mean, I feel fairly disenfranchised from the systems wherever I've been.
You are. We all are.
You know, right now, with the passage of, I think it's C-24. So if I did decide to become a Canadian citizen, since I already have a nationality, since I already have American citizenship, then I would essentially become a second-class Canadian citizen, because I could be deported at the whim of somebody in a higher level of government. At least that's how I understand this bill. So I think that's something that, I mean, in a microcosm, my life is how a lot of people feel. They just feel like they're disenfranchised from the system. And so I think that what we have to do is, at least for me, I have to admit that I have no control over this system. I have no control over what the Canadian government does, or the American government does, or any government does for that matter. And I think that my reaction to that is that what I do have control over is I can learn to grow my own food, for example. And so I want to do that. I do that to some extent. And I notice that my own life has become, well, it's more interesting to grow your own food, to have a relationship with the food that you grow, and to actually participate in deciding which types of, say, kale or lettuce you're going to grow, and what other vegetables. And I really like that. I mean, to me, that seems very real. That seems like something that really gets me in touch with where I live on this planet. And I can't stay in my head when I'm thinking about what I'm going to grow. I like that.
And my feeling is that I have faith in the better side of people and humanity, and I think that if all of us had, just in general, a bigger say about what was happening in our towns and communities and neighborhoods and provinces and nation, that things would be better. We would make things better if we had more of a voice. So I want to get that voice back, if we ever had it.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, I don't know how I could disagree with that. I don't know
whether
it's under our control or not. I mean, I see these systems as sort of being imposed on us, and right now I just want to stand back and watch everything that's happening, because everything is so monumental, everything is so big, and it just seems like when we get together after 1 week, we have a hard time catching up on everything that's happened.
Yeah, it's an amazing time.
It is.
Consciousness changing. Thank you, Will.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Will Smith, and thank you for watching this segment of Citizens Forum. Welcome to the third segment of Citizens Forum, being filmed on June 30th. Our guest in this segment is Lisa Jennings, and we're going to be talking about PTSD and first responders. Lisa, thanks for being on the show, and maybe you can start by just describing your situation. Because
Thank
you're a
you.
first responder,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, well, I'm a paramedic, yeah. First responders include paramedics, police officers, firefighters, 911 operators. I classify corrections and sheriffs as well. They're the first people that come to the citizens who call 911 who are in need of help, of any kind of help.
And what does a paramedic do? Did you work in an ambulance? or-
Yeah, we work in an ambulance. There's certain levels of training and care that's provided. So I've been a paramedic in Alberta and here in BC for a total of 24 years. And I'm proud to say I've never worked a day in my life. I am passionate about my career. Unfortunately, on June 14th last year, I had a call that it just didn't go right. And I was assaulted on that call, and not by the patient, but somebody else on the call assaulted me. And it triggered something in me that just made me feel very different. And for 2 weeks, I was not myself. I could feel I wasn't myself. Things just didn't feel right. I was nauseous, short-term memory issues. And then I just had a complete nervous breakdown at home and wanted to commit suicide.
And this is PTSD.
This was PTSD
Now,
right here.
Can I just ask, did
This is
this happen because of what happened in one incident on one day, or was this something, because
Well,
your
it can-
job, I think, would give a lot of people PTSD, from what I know about PTSD.
Well, it's funny you
CO.
say that
Yeah.
because that's what we're lobbying the government for, is what's called a presumptive clause. And it can be triggered by one, for example, a person like yourself who witnessed, say, 9/11, September 9/11. Somebody who saw something that horrific would likely get a PTSD from the trauma. The brain just can't handle that. A first responder, it's more of an accumulative disorder. You know, we do these calls, we go from one call to the next call. There's no shutting down to take a break. We got to go and then another call. So we just stuff all of this stuff, emotion down. And then it can either be a smell sometimes, or it can be a visual, or it can just be something that it's just the straw that broke the camel's back type of situation.
You must see horrible things. I mean, you're dealing with car accidents, for example, which I've never seen one, and I can't even imagine what it's like.
Murders, stabbings, dismemberment, beheadings, the underbelly of society is what we see. Yeah, on a daily, monthly, yearly, decades long. And eventually we will, now science shows us that we are likely to sustain a mental health injury
Well, I
at
think
work.
I've got PTSD from some things that have happened in my life, and they've been nothing like what first responders probably see on a daily basis. And I'll just mention the little story I told you that, like everybody else, I often see police officers and first responders talking about accidents. They're being asked on radio or television, and it's very cold and very analytical. That's always the way it's presented to us by the media. Somebody very cold who almost doesn't care about what's happened. But years ago, when my children were in probably high school, and there was an evening where, just as part of the whole thing, parents were invited, because kids were getting their driver's licenses, to hear first responders talking about
Yes.
accidents and how you've got to be careful.
The party
And-
program?
Probably. And
Yeah.
all three of them, 2 first responders and 1 police officer, as they were speaking to us, all broke down crying when they were talking about what they'd seen. And I thought, it just struck me, this is so different from what I'm told by the media every day, that even though this happened years ago, I still remember it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you would have PTSD, because the symptoms of PTSD are life-altering, dramatic.
Mild.
I have PTSD,
Yeah.
and my life has come to a halt. And the only thing that keeps me going is what I've been doing with my life since, because I'm still employed, but I'm on a leave, and I just, I can't, if I hear sirens, I go into an extreme panic attack, and I have nightmares, like night terrors. I have a video in my head of, I see all of the most gruesome calls I've ever attended play in my brain constantly, and I can't get rid of them without an appropriate type of treatment is what's necessary for first responders to get better.
And that's kind of what this interview is all about. So you are part of a group that is, I don't even know the name of it or what it's doing, but you can tell
Well,
us.
I'm the founder of a grassroots movement. It started out very small. It was a very private group where people, confidential on Facebook, where first responders could support each other and share their stories, because there is so much stigma around it that nobody in the stations or the the community, the police officers don't chat about it in the gym. There's a few officers now breaking their silence. And I decided to break my silence.
About having PTSD.
About having PTSD, and how WorkSafe BC is putting me through undue stress to get treatment. So I developed a group called You Are Not Alone, PTSD BC, and we're lobbying the government to enact a presumptive clause. Alberta was the first province in Canada.
A presumptive clause means that if somebody gets what you've got, it's presumed
Yes.
that it's PTSD, and you don't have to fight to prove
That's right.
what it sounds.
Exactly
it just
right.
seems as crazy as everything else that's going
That's
on
right.
these days.
And in 2012, the mental health injury was put into workplace, or was enacted in the Workers' Compensation Act, that it can be a worker's injury. So since 2012, 1,800 health workers have submitted a claim for mental health injuries. 114 of them were first responders, and in a 36-month period, only 31 of them were compensated
Out of the,
out of the 1,800.
so
That's unacceptable. And do you know what's happening to the others? I can tell you, the ones that have been reported to me this year, since January, 3 paramedics have committed suicide, 3 firefighters have committed suicide, 6 police officers have, or peacekeepers, so that may include corrections and sheriffs, I'm not at liberty to disclose, have committed suicide.
You know, I'm shocked that this is the first I've heard about it, because, I mean, is the, you know, we all often talk about the role of the media here, and they seem to be keeping this secret, because
No,
why isn't that, well, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no, it is out there. The government is very well aware of this.
Oh, I'm sure they're
Yeah.
well aware. But,
Alberta has a presumptive
but
clause.
if there was a public upswelling of concern, which there probably would be if anybody knew about this, then the government would be forced to do something. But all these
has been.
suicides are taking place, and, well, I'm a member of the general public, and I don't know anything
don't.
about it. Maybe, you know, maybe some people in the general public do, but it's not like Mike Duffy or the Stanley Cup, something important like that. That's
Something
in the news.
as important as a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
That's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Because 365 days of the year, 24/7, no matter what the toll on us, we'll come to your aid.
Yeah,
And even if it's killing us.
yeah.
So we had a meeting with Minister Bond on June 5th, and she's aware.
Yeah.
She knows. She's heard.
Who's Minister Bond? Is the provincial minister?
She's the provincial minister for jobs and labor, and she regulates WorkSafe BC.
Yeah.
So we have had an outcry of emails to her office and the Premier's office from people from all over the province, and pleading for a presumptive clause. That is our only chance to save our first responders from committing suicide, because then you get the immediate treatment. Immediate treatment.
And does the treatment work?
Yes.
So what's going on then? Why won't the provincial government pay for treatment that will help first responders who have PTSD? It seems completely insane.
It's not the government. WorkSafe is an insurance company that employers pay premiums into.
So it's WorkSafe.
It's WorkSafe BC, and the government can write this. I've even given them legal legislation, and they've got a template from for firefighters, presumptive cancers. So I don't know. And I feel like the government should be held responsible for the next suicide. And one will be coming soon, sadly.
Well, and I think you can make that argument that of course they should be. So
I just say to the public, talk to your MLAs, write the government, plead for this, because where are we supposed to go for help?
And I'll say, contact your media and ask them why this is getting, I just say, as somebody who's out there in the general public who doesn't know work-safe issues, if it wouldn't have been for the fact that you got introduced to us on the show, I still wouldn't know anything about this, and neither probably would most of the people watching this.
Well, I'm very grateful for you having me on, and on behalf of all of the first responders in BC, we are very grateful for this time.
Well, then I'll say, probably for all the people in BC, we should be very grateful for all the great work you do for us.
Thank you.
Including when I got hit by a bus. So, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And what's going on, folks? Thank you for watching this segment of Citizens Forum. Welcome to the last segment of Citizens Forum, being filmed on June 30th. I'd like to thank again the volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes this show happen every week. Our guest in this segment is Vicky Chi. Vicky has been on before. She is a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, and we're going to be talking all about summer from a Chinese medicine point of view. So, welcome, Vicky.
Hi, Jack. Nice to meet you again.
And question number one is, do you like summer and why?
I will say, of course. Yeah, I usually ask people, do you like summer or winter more? Most people, 99% people say, I like summer more than winter. Of course, I do, yeah. And why? Because in summer, everything, my energy feel better, and the energy flow better. Because in summer, with the heat, the big sunshine, and all the energy go to outside, yeah, and go to. That's why we wanted to have more fun, yeah, and more activity, and of course, that's why we love summer.
And in Chinese medicine, it's all about, or a lot about, the flow of energy in the body.
Yes, yes.
So, which systems and organs in the body are connected to summer?
Yeah. Why I like to mention about the seasonal system, because in Chinese medicine, each season connected to different system. Each system connected to different season. Actually, each season connected to different system or organ. Yeah, that's why spring connected to liver, we mentioned before, and the summer connected to heart, autumn connected to lung, winter connected to kidney. So we are going to talk about the summer, yeah, about the heart. So summer, lots of heat, fire. We feel so much good energy with the sunshine. That's fire energy. And so that's why heart is a fire organ. And so in summer, we needed to protect or improve more about the heart energy or your heart organ or heart system. Yeah. And how to protect the heart in summer? Actually, if we do something wrong, it may hurt heart in summer. For example, if you drink water all at once, too much, like 500 milligram, all at once, it will suddenly your body have too much water volume, that will hurt heart.
How much? Like that's half a liter.
Yes,
yeah.
Because fire organ, fire doesn't like water.
Right.
So water will extinguish fire. That's why if you drink water too much all at once, then your heart will get hurt. Feel
How about cold
weak.
water or cold drinks in the?
Of course, fire doesn't want to have doesn't like water. Then cold water make it worse. Yeah, because fire fire and the cold, they are against. That's why cold water make the body, make heart even weaker. Yeah, and another thing, if you are too happy, yeah, it will also hurt heart energy.
Wait a
Yeah.
second. Too happy?
Yeah, too happy means suddenly too happy or big laugh, it will hurt heart energy, because happiness consume energy from heart. That's in Chinese medicine, and that's why some people after after a big laugh, they cough right away. Yeah, I have a couple of patients they do. Yeah, so how come I cough every time I have a big laugh? Yeah, that is because lung has to help heart to replenish more oxygen.
Okay.
Yeah, and another thing is if you sweat too much in summer, it will also hurt heart. Yeah, because we have a saying. We say in Chinese medicine, we say perspiration, the water comes from the blood. So if you sweat too much in summer all the time and you didn't replenish enough water, then your heart, you will have less volume in your blood. And then the blood volume will reduce, then will hurt heart, because heart needs lots of blood to get in, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all about how to protect the heart in summer.
So what kind of diseases maybe show up more in the summer, or do we have to deal with more in the summer?
Actually, we have a very important treatment principle in Chinese medicine. We say the disease happen in winter, we better treat in summer. And the disease happen more in summer, we better treat it in winter. So we do opposite. Yeah, means prevention. Yeah, prevention. Yeah, that's why in summer we can take a more like a ginger, cinnamon, more warm herbs to make your sunshine energy more and more. And with the sunshine energy more outside, it will help the body get more sunshine energy in summer. And then in winter, your problem won't be that bad. For example, like
So if you build up the body in the
sunshine
summer,
energy,
right,
yeah, yeah, more in summer, then the winter problem will reduce or go away. Like asthma, like arthritis, pain problem, or if you feel very cold in winter, okay, or you have edema, yeah, in winter. All these problems, we can do something in summer to prevent all these happen in winter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's a special philosophy in traditional Chinese medicine. Yeah, so all these problems we can do something better in summer. Yeah, don't wait until winter. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you be more specific? So what kind of, I mean, we were going to talk about what kind of disease do we need to take care of more in the summer? Is there, like if you were treating someone, you're treating, I guess if you're just building their health, you're building for winter problems.
Yes, I treat patients to give them more sunshine energy, because the sunshine outside, but we needed to use some special herb to boost the internally sunshine energy inside.
Right.
And then the outside sunshine energy will help the internal sunshine energy to help you get rid of the problem. Yeah, especially for winter problem.
And some of the important sunshine energy herbs are ginger.
Ginger,
Cinnamon.
cinnamon, fennel, yeah,
Very simple herbs.
yeah, yes,
How about diet in the summertime?
yes. Because in summer, all the sunshine energy go to the surface, go to outside more. So internally, the organ, especially stomach, is colder than in winter.
Okay. And when you say sunshine energy is moving to the surface, the sunshine energy is what we need to keep deep within our organs.
Yes,
to
keep the
us-
body temperature
Yeah.
warmer. Yeah. For example, heart is a fire organ. So heart is high temperature of the body, highest. That's why we never heard heart cancer, because cancer cell cannot grow in a high temperature area. Yeah. Everywhere can grow cancer, but the heart will never grow cancer. That's why keep the body as warm as you can. Don't drink cold water. Don't eat cold food, especially in summer, because internally your organ is colder than in winter.
So what are some specific foods? For example, salad.
Yeah,
Too
salad.
much salad is
Yeah, you can
is
eat a
cold.
salad, but not a cold salad. Yeah, room temperature, or better steam it. Yeah, make it warmer.
Right.
Yeah, and also cold drink,
Right.
cold water,
Cold beer.
ice cream, cold beer. It's all not good, especially if you are if you already you are 50 years above 50 years old. Then you have to avoid anything cold into your system. Yeah, especially we have to be careful about this in summer, because summertime we tend to drink lots of cold drink.
Yes, yes.
Because we think, oh, we can cool down the body, but actually you make your internal organ even colder.
And
Then-
children having cold cereal with cold milk.
That's not good
not
at all.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are some ideas. In conclusion,
Yes, I think I hope everybody can learn more about the Chinese medicine, because Chinese medicine has its independent individual system theory. Yeah, and the more you understand, the more you will feel so amazed. Yeah, how the body can function, can do it on its own. Yeah, I make a simple example. One of my patients who had a problem, very simple problem, for years, but only 1 week by taking Chinese medicine formula from 2,000 years ago, he was cured only 1 week, but he has been suffering for
so
For
sometimes
years.
it's magic.
yes.
Vicki, thank you very much
Learn
for
more.
our time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're welcome.
yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching today's Citizen Forum.